This week I'm going to be taking a little bit more time with some of the passages that I could only quickly reference in the sermon on how Christians should respond to persecution. And today I would direct your attention to Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 to 48, a very challenging section in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And our verses for today start at verse 43. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. Throughout the Sermon on the Mount, here in Matthew chapter 5, in many ways it's talking about the heart that Jesus gives us. And the heart that Jesus gives us enables us to live differently than people who don't have Jesus in their heart and in their life. And so part of what we hear already up to this point in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5 is, the heart that Jesus gives us lives free from contempt and anger. It lives free from sexual lust and inappropriateness. It's free from the desire to dominate and to control verbally other people. And it's free from grudges. And then here in verses 43 to 48, the heart that Jesus gives us is able to love enemies and to bless those who curse us. And again, I find this personally very challenging. It's not easy to respond the way that Jesus teaches and calls us to respond. But clearly a sure sign that we are not yet where we should be, or that a person is not yet where he or she should be, is we're not even remotely trying to love our enemy. We just dismiss them and we talk about them snidely or arrogantly or meanly or cynically or with great condescension. Christians just aren't supposed to talk about people that way, even people we consider our enemies. We are to love our enemies, Jesus says, and we're to pray for those who persecute us. We're to pray for people who are our opponents, who are against us, who have very different values than we have. Whatever the case may be, we are to seek to try to love them, and we are to pray for them. And if we're not even remotely trying to do those two things, I mean, honestly, how can we say we are taking Jesus seriously in our life? And it's, I think, easier to pray for people than it is to love them. And again, there are different words for love in the New Testament. And this doesn't mean we love someone with warmth and affection like we love our spouse or our children. But it does mean we try to love people in a way that honors them, as God loves even those who oppose him. And as Jesus goes on to say, he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. And so we want to have that same nature that God has in us and in our lives. And so that means I am encouraging you and challenging you, especially in the politically divided times in which we live, to spend less time criticizing and bad-mouthing people you disagree with, or people from the other side, whatever the other side is for you, and take seriously Jesus' statement to pray for those you consider your enemies.